If you build it, they will come. Yeah, right. Fellow coders, if you're full of amazing ideas and have created amazing products but can't seem to get them off the ground, welcome. This is the Coders Startup, the show where smart programmers come to learn what it really takes to create, market, and sell a brand new product, and most of all, make it profitable. Now here's your host, successful software entrepreneur, Trevor Page.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Coders Startup. This is episode number 8, and as always, I am your host, Trevor Page. And today I have my guest host, who has been on pretty much every single episode, Carter the Marketer Johnson.
I don't know if I missed an episode yet.
No, you haven't. He is my right-hand man, as always, so it's always good to have him kick in. So what's going on, buddy? How's it going? How's life? How's it going?
It's a busy week, man. It's a busy week. One of those weeks where unpredictable headaches seem to be rising in the sense of just business challenges, but that's what makes it fun, right?
That's what makes it fun, and that's where I was talking with Carter yesterday about this, these hurdles that he's overcoming as we speak, and there's a lot of good knowledge, locked up in his brain that I want to tease out in some sort of a future episode. That's a bit more advanced in terms of techniques with what he's doing, but some good stuff coming. So I guess for today, what we can focus on, what we sort of decided upon was pricing. So that's often, like I said, I've interviewed a bunch of different programmers before I actually launched this podcast, and one topic that came up time and time again with the people I was interviewing was, what the heck do I charge for my product? So this is a great topic. I can't wait to actually dive into this and talk a little bit about how I went about doing it from a product-based perspective. Also, Carter can talk about it from more of a service-based perspective because he's in the business of serving people in terms of the offerings that he has with SEO and whatnot. So very excited. So where do you want to start, buddy? Where can we dive into this nugget, whatever you want to call it?
Well, I think let's lead off with just your experience with pricing, because I think I'll go ahead and issue a disclaimer. Pricing is not my strong suit. I don't know if it's wealth wounds or what, but I'm always underpricing things and really just giving away more than I should, or at least that's the feedback that I receive often from other entrepreneurs and even customers sometimes. So let's start with you, and then I can chime in, and we'll just see where it goes.
Yeah, man. So, I don't know if there's such a thing as an expert in pricing. There may be, but those people will be few and far between. And I've never heard of one to hire one. So I think we just kind of do what we can with what we have and throw it out there and see what works. And that's the main lesson. I think that out of everything you can get from this talk, it's all about just taking the chance, just putting it out there and seeing what happens. Because the worst thing that can happen is either you've underpriced it and you get a whole bunch of customers, or you've overpriced it and no one buys, and then you just adjust the price again. So that was a big lesson that I had to learn with respect to setting my prices. It's okay to not have it perfect out of the gate. Okay, and that is a recurring theme with entrepreneurship. Being perfect out of the gate is actually not a good thing, because that means that you're wasting way too much time, putting way too much effort into the stuff around the business as opposed to just executing on the stuff that really matters in the business. So anyway, having said that, the first sort of strategy that I embark on whenever I'm trying to set a price, and this is something I've definitely done recently because I've launched a few new courses, is to do the research in terms of surveying the land. So go to the places where other people are selling similar products and figure out what the heck they're charging. So a real world example for this is I just launched 2 different courses on Udemy, and I didn't necessarily know what to charge for them. So if you're not familiar with Udemy, it's just a marketplace where people can create courses and sell them, online easily. And it has a built-in marketplace of 3 million, 4 million people. And I'm obviously interested in getting into that. So I launched the products, but before I set a price, I went out and just did a search for the terms that I was, that I would be found for. So I created 2 courses. One is on Spring Security, which is a framework within Java, and the other was on MySQL, which I'm probably sure you guys are familiar with. So I just, typed in MySQL to see what it was other people were charging for their courses. And there was a plethora of those. So there were some people that had a package deal with like, PHP in MySQL, or whatever in MySQL. But I was just doing a plain old MySQL course. So I couldn't really charge as much because I felt like they were driving home more value because they're teaching two different things, whereas I'm only teaching one. But for the majority of the cases, I found that they were all selling at a very high price point. So I basically decided, okay, I can price myself at that same price point, but with the marketplace that I'm getting into, I'm going to start with 0 reviews. And reviews and ratings are some of the most important things for customers they look at. It's probably one of the first things they look at besides the title of the course. They look at the ratings and the reviews. And since I'm starting with none, I knew I made a calculated decision to drop my price just a little bit. So I came in, I think, 20% cheaper than the, average price of the courses, and that's what I've launched with. And that's what I did with the exact same strategy with my second course. However, my second course on Spring Security, there was practically no competition, which should be a red flag for me because usually that indicates that there's no market for it. But there was a few courses out there, and they were fairly cheap. So then I was like, okay, I know that I drive home a very good course. I'm a very good teacher. So I decided that even though I'm launching with very few reviews, I'm going to charge a premium because I think that my courses are better than the other courses out there. So that's sort of the mindset that I'm in whenever I decide on pricing. But the most important thing is if it doesn't work, you can just change it, because in the however many years it is that I've been doing business, I've never had someone complain saying, hey, I paid this price and now I see it listed for that price. What the heck is going on? And I think in the worst case, if that were to happen, you could just say, okay, here's a refund for the difference, and they're going to be extremely happy. So that's my experience. That's my 2 cents in that matter. There's, I'm sure, plenty more we can talk about. So I'll throw it back over to Carter to add his 2 cents into this debate.
Yeah, totally. You hit on a great thing, just doing competitor analysis, seeing what similar products and services are going for. It is different, I think, just with the variations of what we what our businesses are like. One thing that I think we should talk about is just the difference between basically going in with a commodity pricing mindset where you're basically competing strictly on price, whereas now, like with your reputation of the products you offer and all, you can demand a higher premium on what it is you're offering because you already have proven products that people have experienced. You have a name to back it up, those sort of things. So it's, and if you're interested in this type of stuff, I'd recommend reading some of Dan Kennedy's material on pricing. He does a really good job explaining pricing strategies, as well as just talking about the different types of people that you're marketing to when you're strictly just releasing a price. And it's crazy. And this is where, again, I go back to saying that I've had to work a lot on my mindset around pricing and really just figure out why I see the world the way I do. But there are people out there who immediately will see your product and they will say, no, that's way too cheap. It's not good enough for me. And they'll go and they'll look for a more expensive version of what you're selling. And for me, the first time I ever heard that, I was like, that is asinine. That's crazy. There's no way that can be true. But the reality is there is a large population of people out there who are looking for the Ferraris and the Lamborghinis and everything else, and they're not even interested in the Mercedes, much less the Honda Civics.
Yeah.
So
well, I can think of one thing. Think of let's say you want to go in for plastic surgery. You want to get your nose job redone or something like that. What happens if you go in and the surgeon says, "Oh, that'll be $100."
Yeah. You're gonna wonder what type of nose you're walking out with.
Exactly. So that price definitely has an indication of the quality that you're gonna get in the end, right? You get what you pay for. That's the saying.
Absolutely. So there are a few different ways that you can kind of go about pursuing and backing into your pricing. obviously one of the first things you want to look at is your overhead and what everything is going to cost you. Especially if you're selling something that, we can get into accounting principles another day, but if you have something that have variable and fixed cost based on the quantity that you're selling, you want to make sure you're covering that overhead. So that's something you really want to sit down and just back into and really budget out how much everything's going to cost. One thing I like to just tell people who are first entering business is, I think it was Warren Buffett. I know it was Warren Buffett. I don't know what in what context he was referring to, but he was basically saying that all business should operate at least at a 30% profit margin. So, take it from the wizard himself. That's definitely something to keep in mind, that you want to at least build in a 30% profit margin. And unless you're doing some highly strategical play or something complex that we're not going to get into, make sure you're covering that and just building in a nice cushion for you.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, the programmers here will, I would assume, go forward with building some sort of a software-based venture. But who knows? Like, maybe they could be building physical products, and then that's where, obviously, margins and whatnot come into play. But for the most part, that's what makes software so lucrative, is because the profit margins are ridiculous, right? So
totally.
Yeah.
And really where you see your cost increase, I mean, I remember when I first got into software, I had no idea how much server space costs and all that, and you realize that it's not that much. But where you get into it is on the marketing side, your cost for acquiring new customers. And that's something we can talk about down the road, how to really project that out and calculate it and all. But for now, let's just stick to the basics. Assuming that you're at least making a 30% profit margin, then what else are you going to do? Well, one of the ways is, and a favorite I think among the circles that we interact with a lot, Trevor, is the value-driven pricing method. And let's do an example as far as that goes, Trevor. So let's take SEO services, okay?
Sure.
And let's say you are a IT consultant and you make $1,000 on every new customer, okay?
Cool.
So, we're doing all these calculations. We're basically, I'm projecting how many new prospects I can bring you and how many actual customers out of that service that you can get on, let's say, a monthly basis, because my pricing is on a monthly basis. So let's say that for this example, we're going to be able to deliver you pretty confidently. We think we're going to be able to deliver you 10 new customers per month. Would you say that it's fair for me to charge 10% of the business that I'm able to generate for you? So you're getting 10 customers at $1,000 a piece. That's 10 grand in new business a month. Would you say 10% is a lofty, but not too lofty expectation?
Yeah, I mean, that's when you put it in that perspective. I mean, okay, I'm going to spend 1,000 and get 10. Anybody would make that deal, every day of the week. That's a fantastic deal. That's a fantastic return on investment, right? So I absolutely see the value in your services, in that you're charging $1,000 a month. Absolutely.
So that's an example of kind of revenue-based value pricing. The other way you can do this, and this is something that you see a lot on the software side, because software automates systems, saves you time a lot of the time. So what you see a lot on that side is, okay, Trevor, my software widget is going to take away the pain of you doing all your follow-ups in your business-to-business sales. And right now you spend, looks like, how many hours a week do you spend on doing follow-ups?
Like if you do follow-ups, well, for me it's not too many in terms of follow-ups, because most of my customers come to me. I have, what is that called, inbound marketing?
Yeah, but we're talking, you're running a B2B type.
Oh,
sales.
I apologize.
You're doing a lot of outbound.
I'm back in my IT consultant hat.
Yes.
So I have to reach out to the people and correspond with them and back and forth. So I spend at least, I don't know, 10 hours a week doing this stuff.
Okay, so 10 hours a week, 40 hours a month. And what would you say your hourly worth is?
Yeah, so I mean, I usually bill out at about $200 an hour.
Oh wow, so you're an expensive guy.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna do some rough math in my head. Let's say that's what is that, 8 grand a month?
I I
Is that
think so.
correct?
That sounds about right.
Okay. So if I could save you 8 grand a month, what would that be worth to you?
Well, I guess then I would be willing to pay $800 a month for that, wouldn't I?
If you went off the 10% example that we used before.
Yeah.
But basically, for everyone listening, that's kind of the type of interaction that you can do with new customers just to get an idea of what you should be charging. And, by all means, if you can get them to say, oh, I pay $800 for that, and then you come back and you're offering something that costs $75 a month, well, gee whiz, where do I sign up?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Gee
you're
whiz.
you're definitely there. So have those types of conversations with people who you are prospecting, even if it is. I mean, and Trevor could have used this for his MySQL most recent product.
Yeah,
right?
sure, absolutely. Yeah, I have
'Cause you
I have a
could have.
built-in customer base that I could query and say how much would you pay for this?
Well, and not even that. You could have asked, okay, I am, because how many pages was that? Like, that
Oh,
was
I
a
see what you're saying.
ton of value.
Yeah. I don't know. It was like 160 pages ish or something like that.
160 pages. For an example, we'll say you cover 10 different subjects. So how many hours would it take for an individual to, scan the entire internet, find the best of the best in terms of references and resources to teach this information, and actually put it in a manner where they can understand? I'm willing
Yeah.
to bet it would take, more than 20 or 30 hours.
Yeah.
So right there, you're saving them 20 to 30 hours. They're spending, a few hours reading this. They're profiting 25 hours just from purchasing your product. Going back to what the average programmer makes, I'm sure,
Yeah.
you could justify a price point of $80+. One thing though, and I know we're going over this in a quick manner, but you want to make sure when you are doing this that you're letting your prospects and your customers arrive at the calculation on their own. So we're leading a lot of, I'm jumping ahead and saying, oh, that'd be 8,000. Make sure they answer that statement. Make sure they tell you how much, that would cost them, and then how much that would be worth to them, and how much that would save them. And that's a great way to do things, I think.
Yeah, and I mean this even could tie into the talk of figuring out pricing even ties in with pre-selling. So this is something
Totally.
we've touched on before, and I can even give you guys a real story from my life. I was sitting down with the owner of a what do you call those guys that build actual like residential complexes and whatnot, like
Commercial
developer, builder, sure,
developer, yeah.
something like that. Sitting down with the dude, real nice guy, and we're chit-chatting back and forth, and I was sort of digging in his pain points and saying, what's the least favorite part of your business? What do you hate doing in your business? What do you wake up, in the morning and say, oh my God, I can't believe I need to do this. I want to do anything except for this one thing. So we were, diving into that kind of thing. And he outlined this one part of his business, and I said, all right, well, how long do you spend on this part of your business? And he's like, oh, geez, now I spend X, maybe it was 40 hours a week doing this process that was just like pulling teeth. And I was like, wow, 40 hours a week, that's a lot of time wasted. Like, what other things could you be doing in that 40 hours? And he's like, oh, I could be, following up on this and that. So I was framing the conversation, just making him feel the pain, and then making him feel, how good would it be to not have to do that task or whatever. And I was like, all right, so you could do all these other tasks, and how much money would that put back into your business if you were to do all that extra work, that other stuff? And he's like, well, I could generate new clients, and I could and all this stuff. So, but at the end of the conversation, I essentially sold him on essentially just an app. I won't go into details because I don't know. We didn't sign any, paperwork. I don't want to piss him off or anything. But I ended the conversation in the day with him agreeing to pay me $250 a month for an app that would take me essentially no longer than 1 week to build. So I was like, holy cow, like this stuff really works when you sort of get them to talk about their pain and get them to really paint the picture of of the problem, as well as how amazing it would be to not have that problem anymore. So it's very powerful stuff. It really does. It really does work.
I think that's a good transition for us too into the other popular and pricing strategy that I use often, and that is price anchoring, because they're almost cousins. You know what I mean? You got your value driven pricing, where if you remember, we took basically how much is saved, either time or revenue portion, or gained, I should say, and we take just a percentage of that, so like 10%, and that's value driven pricing. The other side of that is price anchoring, and that's where you're specifically trying to compare apples to apples, so to speak. And I'll give you an example that I recently had this week. I was speaking with a new client, and one of the services we do, basically, my team really replaces a lot of the need for companies to have a marketing division or just a marketing manager. So one of the things we can do is, if we're price anchoring, is ask, well, how much would a marketing manager cost you right now in your office space?
Oh, $100,000 a year.
Totally. And for the sake of this example, let's just say, it's 60 grand a year, and that's before benefits, vacation, training hours, everything else. Well, when I say, when they say 60 grand a year for a marketing manager, and then they look at our proposal for what we're doing, and it's coming in,
like 30 grand or something.
Yeah, a lot cheaper than that. Let's put it that way.
Okay, sure.
It's it's a no-brainer. And again, the importance of that is on the front side, getting them to commit to the numbers and getting them to actually explain to you what it looks like in terms of cost. And that's a larger view, I would say, of price anchoring. On a smaller view, we can talk about that. Actually, I have an example that happened to me the other day in the grocery store that I can talk about. I'm a sucker for guacamole.
Nice.
I love guacamole, and those darn avocados are always expensive. And then when you don't have the other seasonings and onions, tomatoes, and everything else, guacamole can get pretty expensive for a little side dish pretty fast. So I was at the grocery store and I was like, I'm gonna make guacamole, and sure enough, it's like they orchestrated it just for me. I go to the section where the tomatoes are, and they have pretty much every ingredient you would need right there. They have the tomatoes, the onions, garlic, a couple of spices, everything else. And I'm adding it to my cart, and then I look down and I see this pre-made guacamole pack, and it was like $7, and freshly made, had the date on there. It was that morning. And it was $7, and I start looking at all the pricing that I had basically placed in my cart, and I was like, well, holy hell, I'm spending like $18 to make something that's going to take me another hour to make.
Yeah.
And sure enough, put those avocados, everything else back on the shelf, grabbed one of those pre-made fresh packs, and tip my hat to King Soopers grocery store for using some nifty price anchoring that they didn't even really have to spell out. They let me arrive at the same conclusion.
Nice. Well, there you go. So I mean, this is powerful stuff, and hopefully that also allows you to open up and expand your own horizons in your own mind to realize that the products or the services that you can provide are actually worth something. Okay. I mean, I was absolutely guilty of this when I started. Carter is still guilty of this sometimes.
Yeah.
We have this own self-doubt, but yeah, we just need to realize that we offer true value in whatever, way that we provide it, whether it's time saving or, revenue saving or whatever. It's value. So it's worth something. And it's worth going out and figuring out what that value is. And like I said, even if you get it wrong the first time, you can absolutely tweak it, and trust me, no one will be the wiser. So, definitely some great tidbits of knowledge there. And the other thing you can think about is pricing yourself as being less expensive. So if you self-sabotage and you feel like you aren't worth whatever price it is that you should be worth, and you price your product cheaper, there's a few drawbacks to that as well. Not just, okay, you might get more people coming and buying your stuff, but more customers is not exactly a good thing. Because if you charge, okay, whatever it is, you charge $10 to your product and that attracts 100 customers versus charging $100 and getting 10 customers. Getting 10 customers to pay $100 and having to handle 10 customers is much easier than handling 100 customers. Okay?
And can I add on to that too?
Absolutely, go for it.
Wait, did I take away your thunder though?
No, that's the point I wanted to get at, yeah.
And that's something that Dan Kennedy talks a lot about, and it took me a long time to realize. I would much rather be in a business where I am charging a higher level price, because then I can devote my full attention, my team's full attention to serving the best interest of those clients day in and day out. And when you have the margins in your business to go above and beyond, the marketing takes care of itself. I mean, the marketing, you'll be receiving more referrals, more people pushing your product out to others than you know what to do with. And a great example of some companies that have done that, Zappos is immediately one that comes to mind. Who are some others? But I mean, just people who go above and beyond, selling more so on the high end of the pricing, but because they have that wiggle room with the margins, they can pay more attention to that customer. They can spend more delighting that customer and really leave an impression.
Yeah, I know that's John Dumas of Entrepreneur on Fire is doing that now with his Podcasters Paradise group. It's a great group. It's for aspiring podcasters, someone who wants to start a podcast, and they can get in there and learn how to create, grow, and monetize their podcast. I should obviously hook you up with a link to this because it is a good product. But he goes above and beyond for his customers now. He sends out personalized welcome messages. So he'll actually record a video of himself, not like a bulk video. This is a customized, personalized message, and sends it to you. And then he'll send you I don't know if it's a T-shirt in the mail or like some brownies with like a handwritten letter saying thank you. And like he just goes way above and beyond. And that is because also he charges a premium price for his course. He perceives the value as being worth what it is that he's charging because, if you didn't know how to podcast before and then you learn how and you go and you do a successful podcast launch and it fuels the whole rest of your career as an entrepreneur, how much is that worth? So that is it's almost invaluable. So it almost doesn't matter what he charges and it's still going to be worth it. So in any case, now you can, maybe we're doing price anchoring right now. How much do you think? How much would you pay for this course if it fueled your the entire entrepreneurial career and you were able to work from home and your significant other could retire and you could work together and raise your children from home and not have to drive to work every day. How much is that worth to you? And I think he charges like what, $800. Maybe $900. I don't remember, something along the lines of that. And
are you talking about John?
Yeah, I'm talking about John and his
I don't
product.
know.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in there. So it's like that's a bargain. It really is a bargain in my opinion. So yeah.
Well, and I got this. I thought this was genius, and I've told this story a few different times. I'm not sure if I mentioned it on this podcast, but I was talking to somebody about Tony Robbins Business Mastery. It's an event he hosts once a year, and every other year it's in Fiji. And I'd like to go next time. It's definitely a high priced item. I think it's 10 grand for the week. Plus you got to get yourself out there and all. But he brings in all these, top notch, best of the best type of business gurus. And after every lesson, in your workbooks, there's actually a place where you calculate how much that lesson was worth to you.
That's right. I remember this.
Yeah. And, he does it. How much was this knowledge worth to you? And then, he walks you through it. Now you're carrying that. How old are you? Where are you in your business? Whatever. You're carrying that forth every month, every quarter, every year, every 5 years, every 10 years. What is the value of that? And when you write it out like that, you're like, holy shit, can I write that many zeros? Because it's just one of those things. It's just great. So
yeah. Well, we'll bleep that one out. So, but it's
did I curse?
Yeah, that's all right. Well, we're all grown ups here, but we want to make it a kid friendly show. So, what's interesting? I don't know if you knew this or not because you haven't said anything yet. Just going off topic. Did you know that I booked John Dumas to get on this podcast?
I thought I saw an email about that.
Yeah, so John Lee Dumas is coming on this podcast. So the creator of Entrepreneur on Fire and the Podcaster's Paradise will be in a future episode. Probably many episodes down because he's a very busy man. So I think the interview is happening sometime in January. So that's going to be cool. We'll talk about some podcasting there. Yeah. So there you go. So that's pricing, in a nutshell. And it's only about 30 minutes of talking about this, but I don't want you guys to get too hung up on figuring out what to charge, because the worst thing you can do is spend weeks and months spinning your wheels about how much to charge. Don't do that. That is a gigantic mistake. I'll come to your house and kick you in the butt for doing that. Just spend an afternoon, spend a day. Do the research, look at your competition. Spend some time with actual customers. If you're in a service-based business, I guess that'd be more than a day then. But talk to the people and pick their brains. But don't spend that much time on it. Just get it out there. Get the price out there. Don't let it be held up by setting that bloody price. So. There's our 2 cents, and anything to add before we finish off for this one?
No, man, that was a fun time.
Good
to talk pricing.
Absolutely. So get out there. You can get the show notes for this episode if you like on codersstartup.com/8. We'll see what sort of goodies we can throw into that show notes page for you. We'll leave it as a surprise. So head on over there, check it out, and sign up for our email list as well, because I think we're going to be launching a free course for the step-by-step way to go about successfully launching your next product. So that's going to
tell you what.
Yeah, man.
I love Dan Kennedy's spin on pricing so much that if anyone wants a book, let's figure out a way and we can give away one of those books, Dan Kennedy pricing book. I think that'd be cool for our listeners.
There we go. That's what we can do. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
So we can run some sort of a contest or something to get that book, because Dan Kennedy is the king of this stuff. So by all means, we can give back to our listenership.
Absolutely.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. Head on over coderstartup.com/8. Sign up for that contest and get your free copy of a Dan Kennedy book.
Boom.
Cool. So take care of yourselves. Always a pleasure doing these things, and I will see you in the next episode of the Coder Startup. Peace.